What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we are here with 2Shadows. It's great to talk to you, Tris. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the two singles I just heard, which is Screamworks as well as "Scratching the Surface" featuring the Veer Union, a band I really love, by the way.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I like them too.
yeah. Crispin is easily, I think, one of the most underrated vocalists in rock ever. Like, just oh god, I can't get enough of that guy.
It's pretty crazy, even hearing him just like we're like us working on like melodies and stuff like in the studio because he's producing like our whole upcoming EP, and just hearing him like just talk about or just like sing like quick melodies like the first time we heard him like without all the processing and stuff you hear like in live or on record or whatever, just like holy, this guy can sing.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Yeah.
Yeah, just absolutely insane. But could this maybe like serve as like a good representation of the direction that Two Shadows is going into, or is it, pun intended, us just scratching the surface of your sound?
Yeah, I mean, we're lots of us are into lots of different genres and everything. So, I mean, that's one thing we hope to do like in our first and like second for follow up, whatever that ends up being, is to be like quite diverse because we do really like heavy music, but we also do like a lot of kind of more experimentally stuff, I guess. So we just want to make sure it's as diverse as we can get away with right off the bat. So maybe down the road, if we do something a little outside the box, we don't get, I guess, don't let down fans as much, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
you took the words out of my mouth because I do consider this style of music because, like, I've heard people compare your work to, like, more like a Rob Zombie sort of thing, but then, like, I've heard
yeah,
people compare it to, like, Korn or maybe, like, a little bit of Disturbed, some Julian K, even some Nine Inch Nails influences.
yeah,
So, like, it's fair to say that, like, experimenting with your style is part of the songwriting process,
yeah.
right?
I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, I guess we just mostly do what we love, like make music we love, and if people like it, then awesome. If they're not so stoked on it, then I guess that's all we can do. But yeah, no, like we use a lot of like programming and stuff and like electronics and our music. We all really like that aspect of it. I find like using like electronics and music just in general like opens up so much room for like creativity and everything, and I've always been very fond of doing that kind of stuff. So I guess that kind of helps sometimes take music in a little bit of a different direction because, like, if you're in the studio and doing programming stuff, it's very easy to take a totally different direction. I think the last little demo thing I did had like some like almost dubstep elements in it, and I was like, some of the guys weren't really into it, but it was just like it's easy to get carried away and send off a demo, and the guys were like, that's not really anything remotely what this band is doing, but okay, good try.
There were times where like a lot of experimental bands that I've interviewed, I wanted to ask them this, but I was always worried it would be kind of like a wisecrack and take it the wrong
Yeah,
way. I wanted to be like, so you've had 14 styles. What's next for your career?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's at the same time like I think change in bands is like lots of times you're never going to make everybody happy. So like change and progression in bands, there's always going to be some of the old school fans that really don't like your new stuff. But that's one of my favorite things like about like Korn, for example, is if you listen to their first album all the way through their most recent stuff, like you're like that's like such a trip, like all the way through. So such a style change, and like it keeps them in. That's probably one of the big reasons why they've been doing it for what 30, 40 years now, and they're still like playing arenas. Is they're constantly changing and adapting and just doing what they want. But yeah, that's like I don't know, going from a band that's playing like old like what do you call it? I can't even remember that like genre that they're labeled like Limp Bizkit or whatever, that uh new
Yeah.
metal, going to like a dubstep album and stuff like the one with Skrillex and all that stuff. Like that's pretty cool, like to have a band like that and still have like old school fans support them. So that's I guess what I'd shoot for definitely as a band, to be able to kind of do whatever you want and have it like kind of in the same realm of, or just I don't know, I guess right off the bat we hope to be a little bit diverse so people stay interested all the way through. And if we do something really wacky and like 3 albums from now, it'll still be like have a good reception, I guess. But
Yeah. Do you like enter the songwriting process with a preconceived idea of what you want to do, or is it like a lot of improvising and a lot of like happy accidents, as I like to say?
yeah, we don't really. It's tricky with like metal, I guess, specifically to just like jam out like a song idea. Like I played with bands when I was younger that were more like rock style bands, or like kind of hard rock, or like kind of a bit more classic rock sounding, like when I was a teenager and stuff. And it's pretty easy to like jam out riff ideas or song ideas and then play it. But metal is like pretty formulated, I find. So we actually kind of as a band, like usually the main skeleton of the song gets like written by usually like one person will start like a skeleton, and so, like you'll sit down in front of like a in the studio and work through it like kind of front to back like a good skeleton. And then usually I guess after that skeleton's done and everybody comes in is where I guess more of the collaborative effort comes in, because like our drummer will come in and like do like his drum stuff and make sure it's exactly how we play it. And then like our other guitar player does most of our programming and everything, so he'll come in, add all of his elements, and then the vocalist. So our vocalist and our drummer do most of the lyric writing, so they'll come in. It kind of happens in layers all the time. Usually I'll start with like the skeleton of the song and then send it off to the guys, and then I'll usually work on it remotely. Especially since COVID's kind of happened, it's just a lot easier to send off files and kind of have people working on it separately. But yeah, typically that's it's not super like jam it out in a live room or anything like that. It's usually pretty formulated at home kind of thing.
Yeah. And like it's interesting. Has there ever been a time though where maybe like your do you consider your music to be conceptually driven? Like can like a lyrical idea or maybe like a concept maybe influence the direction of the sound as well?
Yeah, I don't know. It's I mean, we definitely like when it comes. Usually, it just comes off of like a guitar riff idea. I'll just be playing guitar or something, and then you'll kind of get a few riffs together, it starts sounding good, and then usually if it's something, I'll start setting up the work session or the like recording session and just start building. It depends. Like I don't know. It's kind of like super random all the time, like what inspires the song initially. It usually the inspiration for what the overall theme of the song doesn't come till like kind of the lyric writing happens. Like our vocalist will really shape the whole vibe of the song, and lots of times we'll like with electronics and everything like go back and like wipe it. Like if he's going in like a really dark direction or something, we'll usually, and the electronics are like a little bit more positive sounding, I guess, like we'll go back and wipe it all and like start programming from scratch, I guess, and kind of really model it around what the theme that our vocalist is taking the direction lyrically. But yeah, there's like usually lots of different revisions, like thematically, before we get to kind of the final end result for sure.
That's gotta be so. I imagine that it's gotta be a pain in the ass to decide when the song is finished, right? If there's a lot of layering involved.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, our guitar player, other guitar player would put it like the song's never ever finally done. It just gets to a point where it's like, okay, we need to stop, just like mix it, master it, and get it out.
Yeah, and do you like find that like is it fair to say that like it always starts off with guitar? Is there ever something that always every song starts off with, or
So
has
far, yeah, yeah. Everything, yeah, usually starts from like guitar, bass, and drums, kind of riff, just like kind of programming everything, and then usually electronics get added, and then when the electronics and all the root instruments are laid down, then it usually goes off to our singer, and he starts messing around with it. But yeah, it's usually always guitar.
Mhm. And kind of going back to what we started this interview off with, working with the Veer Union, who I think is just an incredible band that really I do see a lot of distinct style differences from you two. Like when I listen to the Veer Union, and sorry Crispin if you're listening to this and don't like the analogy, but like I've always thought the Veer Union was more like in the vein of like a 3 Days Grace or a Breaking Benjamin or a Shinedown or a Disturbed,
Yeah, totally.
something around those lines, a Seether or whatever. And then like having your kind of style like that, I would say is very more electronic driven and has a lot more industrial and new
Yeah.
metal excuse the phrasing. So like, I'd imagine that working with the Veer Union of a different style has maybe opened up a 2Shadows idea into what you want to do in the future, right?
Yeah, a little bit. It definitely he's definitely helped us by producing it, get a little bit better grasp of a direction, like a sound direction that we want to go. And they definitely, like, through making this first EP that's coming out in the summer or whatever, it's definitely helped us hone in exactly like a little bit more of our sound. Um, he I feel like Crispin, though, like the guys that are in the studio with us, which are the same guys that like produce most of the Veer Union stuff, they definitely, like, those guys are metal heads at heart. And I think Veer Union is definitely, like, from their first songs and their first albums and stuff back in the day, they've definitely gotten a lot heavier over the years. And I kind of personally think that they've always wanted to be a heavier band, but just kind of, like, I don't know, when they started, maybe were just trying to get on the radio essentially and radio stuff. But some of their new stuff's, like, it's pretty heavy stuff. Like, they got some screaming in the background and stuff. So I think maybe having Crispin added to it has helped a lot, because I think he's had a lot of pent up, like, aggression that he uses us to release through when we're all working on songs together.
Yeah, well, the Veer Union is one of those bands that, like, where like a metal heads could appreciate them, but also rock fans could appreciate them. Like, I could,
Yeah.
like, I remember I missed them both times they came to New York City, and I'm so pissed. They played with Alisana, which is, like, for those of you who don't know, like, and like Red Jumpsuit Apparatus was on that tour as well. But then they also did a tour with Red, so like they're a kind of a band, and I feel like 2Shadows has that sort of vein as well. Like, I could see you touring with like a Lacuna Coil, but I could see you touring with maybe like a Disturbed, or maybe like Kill Switch Engage, or maybe even like a Dragon Force or something like that. Maybe like, have you like played before? Obviously, the world ended. Have you like played in front of many different types of audiences before?
Yeah, actually, that's one thing we've, I guess, battled with, and one thing we've always represented as a band is definitely welcoming, like, wanting to create like a community for all types of people, no matter what your background is, what your interests are. And one thing we've noticed, like, with touring and playing with other bands in different cities, there's been occasionally where we've been on the wrong bill. Like, we were playing with like a bunch of different death metal bands or something, and yeah, the audience definitely did not like what we were doing. It was just like, we definitely have received some flack for our imagery and stuff, like playing on the wrong bills. However, it's most times, like, it's pretty, like, works out pretty good. We played with like some unique bands for sure, but it definitely is nice when you get like the crowd. Like, I remember a few years ago we played with a group called September Morning.
Oh, they're great. I just interviewed Emily a couple days ago.
Oh, really? Awesome. Yeah, no, I really like those guys. I met up with them down in Nam and chatted with them again, and it was really cool because they had actually, like, remembered our show. They're like, "Oh, you're the band with the crazy, like, makeup and the like steam launchers that were blasting, like, off stage and stuff." Like, yeah, totally. We ended up hanging out for a little bit, but at the NAMM show in Anaheim there. But yeah, anyway, them, and like when we played with Wednesday 13 before.
That definitely, and I could see you. Like,
yeah.
If there's a Wednesday 13 fan that doesn't like your band, I'm not gonna believe them. Like,
yeah, and
that's
like
a
Common
dream
Christ we played with before too, and like all of those bands, like, those are definitely good crowds, like, that really, like, just, I don't know, it was like a good crowd to be in. But like, if it's a band that doesn't really necessarily match what your style is, it still generally gets taken pretty well. It's still a good show, but
yeah, you got to play in front of different audiences, and there's always going to be that one audience. And those death metal shows you mentioned about, I'm sure that they liked you, and they're just afraid to admit it. Like,
yeah, I don't know. We definitely tried everything to get them into it, and it did not work. So.
Well, I think your style is ultimately a good gateway drug too. I think people are going to be into Behemoth after, like, if they discover 2Shadows at like a young age.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and you mentioned like your imagery, and I always like asking artists this, because when looking at your photo shoots and stuff, do you almost feel that, like, in 2Shadows, both in the music and in like the stage and everything, that maybe you all kind of, like, for lack of better words, like, portray like a character? Or do you, or is it just a direct extension of who you personally are?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I know when, like, years ago when we had new members joining and stuff and we were kind of forming the band, I definitely, like, knew that the makeup and the theatrics was a thing that I wanted to do and made sure this band was going to do. And it was definitely a criteria when I was bringing new guys on and everything. It's like, are you okay with the theatrics and everything? Because if you're not, then this isn't going to work. And definitely like what I would always tell them is to like come up with like a character that resembles like yourself sort of, or like sort of a character thing. And I think that's what I always said, but I think everybody was like definitely kind of doing this stuff on their own like before this band, and just like kind of looking like we do, kind of like it was definitely a very good friend or like connection for them to like come into this band because they were already into that kind of style of stuff and had kind of wanted the same thing originally. But yeah, I think I would always say like design a character for like on stage and a persona and stuff. But I think everybody ended up just kind of literally, yeah, kind of doing something that like resembles themselves or kind of a their own thing. There was definitely no like characters or anything. And our like drummer, for example, he's like a tattoo artist as well, and he's like a very good artist. So he definitely likes being able to express himself that way. With like he does lots of crazy stuff all the time with like makeup and everything. But yeah, no, it's I guess kind of characters sometimes, but we do like change it up every now and then. Usually every like tour, but yeah, I don't. It's yeah, for the most part, it's just a kind of an extension of ourselves for sure.
When you're recording, do you try to like almost feel like, because and what's funny is I asked actually September Morning this last Monday, because she portrays like a certain individual on stage
Yeah,
and stuff,
yeah.
and like obviously you want to capture a live energy on your album. You want it to, and you want the music live to be just as good as it is on the album. So like when you're recording, do you almost feel like you have to get just as much into character in order to maybe execute the material as well?
Yeah, I can see that. I've never really felt that personally, um, but that's one thing. Maybe it's just because we've always kind of focused on like I subconsciously like I'm constantly thinking of what would sound good live, like what certain like sometimes for me with writing the music, like I'm literally envisioning like the stage show as it's like will the stage show will be like a consideration of mine when I'm like writing a part and what I'll do with that part just based on like what like a theatrical idea I'll have like for the stage show. And sometimes like maybe a part will sound better, but I think that this other part will be able to be emphasized so much better live or something. That definitely is a factor I bring in with during writing and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Like the first concert I ever seen was an Alice Cooper concert, so it definitely like scarred me for life in a good way. That like I learned early that music can be much more than just listening. It can be a whole visual experience too. So I definitely take that into consideration. But as far as going in the studio and feeling like I need to be in character, it's yeah, not so much. I guess is myself, maybe more so for our vocalist because he's really like getting in the headspace when he's in the vocal booth and trying to get into that. But like just like laying down guitars or drums, I guess it's a little bit trickier to really like get into that, I guess, zone because a lot more emotion comes from vocals and everything.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and did you always, with the formation of 2Shadows, was that always the vision that you had in mind? Was that something that you always wanted to do, or did that vision sort of like develop over time as well?
no, right from the beginning, it was definitely this is how it is because like my previous band was just a whatever local band or whatever from this like because we're from Vancouver. When I first moved down, I started or like was in this other band I ended up joining up with, and I was kind of like noticing I was trying to like convince the guys that I was playing with at the time to kind of like try to get more of a style or whatever because it was very much just regular, just like stage clothes or whatever. And I definitely wanted to have like something more like imagery, and it just like the guys weren't into it, and then eventually that band didn't work out. So kind of in reforming this band from the beginning, it was kind of like this is how it is. This is the monster I want to somehow create, and then finding these guys, they definitely were all into the same thing and definitely helped build the whole like idea of the band with me for sure. But yeah, right from the beginning, we've been doing all this stuff for sure.
Awesome, and congratulations. And Before we go, I just want to thank you so much for your time today, and really great to be able to talk to you. Is there just anything else with 2Shadows that you would like to promote? You said that the EP is coming out this summer, maybe some new singles in between now and then, or anything else you'd like to plug?
Yeah, we'll definitely have a video coming out before the EP comes out, like a third video, and possibly two singles, but definitely one more video. But yeah, we're not sure like a exact release date on the EP, but definitely when it's warm, so at some point. We were trying to hold off till the COVID thing blew over so we could tour on it, but we're just like, it's been too long. We're definitely gonna get something out this summer, but yeah, this summer, and no release date. We don't even know a release date quite yet, but we're actually just going in the studio this upcoming week to just do the final touches on all the music and stuff. But
Awesome. It'll be worth the wait, so thank you so much. Everybody, we are here with 2Shadows. Check out the two singles, Screamworks, as well as Scratching the Surface, featuring the Veer Union. This is Alex from Heavy New York.